Yomi is Gittin Nun Zayin. We're going to start on the bottom of Vav on the base 56b, 4 lines from the bottom. We're going to start 56b, 4 lines from the bottom. The Gemara tells us, Unclus bar Kolonikis. We know from the Sechas Avodah Zarah that Unclus is somebody who is a convert. Unclus bar Kolonikis was bar Achte de Titus. He was the son of the sister of Titus. Good morning, Harold. Avabaile Giure. He wanted to convert. Unclus was seeking to convert. Also, Aske Titus. He went and he went to speak to Titus. How did he speak to Titus? We just read that Titus has died. Benegide. He raised him from the dead using magic. He says, in the world to come, who's distinguished? Yisrael, said the Jews. Should I become Jewish? We have a lot of mitzvos. It's too many for you to keep them. Go attack them in your world, and then they become their chief. All their tormentors will become the head. This is like the old joke. If you wanted to get $1 billion, attack the United States, and then they'll rebuild you. So you ever hear that joke, Carol? Whoever tormented the Jewish people will become the head. So he says so Uncle says to Titus, what's your punishment in the world to come? On my way, on the top of 57a, I got what I asked for. Meaning to say, Titus had asked for his bones to be cremated and scattered around the 7 seas. And that's what happened here too. We're top line of 57a. Every day they gather my ashes, the Dayanile, and they judge them, the Kolule, Mavadru, and then they burn them again, and then they scatter them out. Ashev Yami over the 7 seas. Also Aske Bilam. He went and gathered up Bilam. And when he went to gather up Bilam, Benegide used the necromancy. Same question. Who's distinguished in that world? Yisrael, the Jews. Should I become Jewish? Don't seek out their welfare all their days. Meaning, no, don't become Jewish. He's like, what's your punishment? He says, because my punishment is I'm boiled every day in male seed, because Bilam tried to convince the Jews to go after the Midianite women. Therefore, he's burnt every day in male seed. Then Unclus went and he raised the enemy of the Jews through necromancy. The earlier sources seem to say that this was a reference to Jesus. So he says to this person who is distinguished in this world, Yisrael, Jewish people, so should I become Jewish? He says, Tovasam derosh rasam odrosh. So this third person says, yeah, seek out their welfare, but not anything bad for them. Whoever touches them, it's as though you're poking out your eye. What's your punishment in the next world? I'm boiled in feces. Whoever is mocking the rabbis is burnt in feces, boiled in feces. Come on to what's the difference between Titus and Bilam, and then this third person who was actually Jewish. So, look at the difference between them, that the third person was seeking out the welfare of the Jews, but Bilam and Titus, even though they're being judged in Gehenna, they still were so adamant in their opinions. They couldn't change their mindset. That's a very powerful message. Come and see how great is the power of humiliation. Because Bar Kamsa was humiliated, God helped him. They destroyed the base of Mikdash and he burnt his temple, all because he wanted to help a person who was embarrassed. Because of a rooster and a hen, Tur Malka was this huge area, this mountain was destroyed. Their practice was whenever they brought a bride and groom down to the wedding, they had a rooster and a hen walking in front of them. Komar, as if to say, be fruitful like a chicken. Yom Echad, one day, one day the Roman army unit was passing in front of them. Shaklu minayu. They took the rooster and the hen. So Nafal Machunu. The Jews fell upon them and attacked them. Also, Amrullah Kazar and Mardu Chayu died. And they said to the Caesar, the Jews are rebelling. Asa Alayu. So Caesar attacked them. Abu Bahu Bar Droma. The Jews had a very good fighter. He was a man from the south. He used to be able to jump a mile and kill a Roman. So he's a sniper. So Shaklai Kizar Watage. So Caesar took down his throne, and he put it on the ground. Ribana de Alma. Caesar recognized God. He said, Ribana de Alma Kula, master of the whole universe. If this is what you want, on Tim Lahu Gavra, with the Deo Machuse Biyade Dechad Gavra. He said, okay, if this is what you want, don't put me into the hands of that one man. I resign. But this man from the south, he started speaking in improper manner. And he said, hello, Atal Kim Zinaftano, He says, what do you think? You're worried about if God abandons us and if God doesn't come out amongst us? We don't need God. The Gemara says, first of all, David Nami Amarachi. David also said this. The Gemara says, no, David, this line, which comes from Tehillim, David Atmuik Amatame. David was saying it with astonishment. Could anybody say such a thing that they don't need God? And this man, this fighter, was so arrogant, he was saying it. Olabe Sakise, this fighter, went to the bathroom. Also, Darkuna Shamtela Karkashe. The snake attacked him while he was going to the bathroom, and it ripped out his inner parts. And he died. So the Caesar said, well, since a miracle happened, I'll leave the Jews alone this time. Shavkinu, he left them, and he left. He's Dakar v'achu v'shasa. The Jews began to dance, and they ate, and they drank. Vidliku sharge, and they started lighting fires. Adis chazi bilyona de gushpanka. They could see the forms on the coin even when they were a mile away. Amar milchta kachadu biyudai. So the Caesar said, the Jews are laughing at me. Hadar asawai, we marched upon them. Amar Abiyasi, tuasmea alfe shlifa saife ailu tormalka. That day, 300,000 soldiers with their swords drawn marched on Tur Malka. The Katluba Tuasa Yome Tasale Vuse. And they killed straight for 3 days and 3 nights. And on the other side of the mountain, the Jews were still partying. They didn't even realize what was going on. God destroyed them, and he did not have mercy, as Kol Naos Yaakov, all the fields of Jacob. And this refers to it was Shishim Riboy Ayaros. Shahayu lo Lianai Hamelach. This refers to the 600,000 cities that Yanai Hamelach had Bahar Hamelach on this mountain. The Amar Ravuda Maravasi, Shishim Riboy Ayaros Ayolo Yanai Hamelach Bahar Hamelach. Kol Achas V'Achas, every city Hayu Bakayotzi Mitzrayim had the same amount of people that left Egypt. Chutz Mishalosh, except for 3 of those cities, Shayuba and Keflayim, which had double the amount of Kiyotzi Mitzrayim. And these are the 3 cities: Elohein, Kfar Bish, Kfar Shechayim, and Kfar Dechraya. Kfar Bish, Eloyahavi, Beisa, Ushpiza. Kfar Bish was destroyed. They didn't let guests stay there. Kfar Shechayim, Haisa Parnasa, Sam, and Shechayim. They were supported from these vegetables that were called Shechayim, like a cress, watercress. Kfar Dechraya, Amar Rav Yohanan, Shayim Shosein, Yodos, Secharim, Tchila. Their wives would give birth to males at first. And at the end, they give birth to females who poskus, and then they would stop. And said, I saw that place. He couldn't hold 600,000 reeds, let alone 600,000 people. They said, so you're lying. You're saying there's so many Jews living there. It's impossible. No, it's not. Eretz Tzvi, Israel is called the land of the deer. Just like a deer, its skin cannot hold its meat. When Jews live on Israel, it becomes bigger. When they don't, it contracts. These Rabbanon were sitting with each other. Anybody who heard something about the city Kfar Sachanya in Egypt, say something. One of them opened up and began to speak. He said, Maisa ba'aros v'arusaso. He said, I'm going to tell you a story about a man and woman who were betrothed. Then they were captured. And they were married to each other. She said to him, she said to her husband, I request from you, don't touch me, because he never gave me a ksuba, because he was a slave, he had no money. And he didn't touch her, because they weren't allowed to live together as husband and wife until he gave her a ksuba. He didn't touch her until he died. When he died, and she said to the men who were burying him, Siptu was eulogize this man, Yosef. He conquered his inclinations more than Joseph. He will be Yosef. Joseph only conquered his inclination that one moment with Potiphar's wife. This person did it every day. Joseph was not sleeping in the same bed with her. This man was in the same bed with me. Joseph was not married to her. This was his wife. The other one said, I'll tell you another story. In Kfar Sachanya, they were selling for 1 dinar, you have 40 measures of meat. But then the price of the wheat went up. And then you only got 39 for dinar. They said, what was the sin that was committed? And they discovered it. There was a father and a son, and they had relations with a married girl on the night of Yom Kippur. They brought them to the court and they stoned them. And the price returned to where it was supposed to. The third one said, I'll tell you a story about a man. He wanted to divorce his wife. Her ksuba was a lot of money. What did he do? He went and he invited his best friend. He got them drunk and he laid them down on the same bed. Maybe Ubam Bates, and he wanted to frame them for adultery. So he brought the white of an egg. He put the white of the egg on the bed. And he brought in witnesses, and he says, and he took them to the court. He says, look, they were adulterous. There was one elder there, a descendant of Shammai, his name was Baba Ben Buta. This is my tradition from Shammai. If it's really from an egg, it'll look like an egg when an egg's cooked. Whereas the zera, the seed, would melt away. They discovered he was right. They brought him to the court and they stoned him. They made him pay the ksuba. These people were such righteous people, they knew everything, they knew what was up. My time, why were they punished? Because they didn't mourn properly for the destruction of Jerusalem, because it says, Simchus Yerushalayim v'gilu. Simchus Yerushalayim v'gilu ba'kol avel. Rejoice for Jerusalem, all those who love it. Sisu ata. Whoever mourned for Jerusalem will properly rejoice over it. And then the Gemara said, "Shakat the Rispa Kar Beisar," because of the side of a carriage, Beitar was destroyed. Tavanagu, they had the custom. Kiavim Misyala Yanuka, when a boy was born, Shasli Arza, they would plant a cedar tree. Yanukasa, when a little girl was born, Shasli Turnisa, they planted a pine tree. They have a Mitzavi, and when they got married, Kaitzu, the Abduganana, they would cut down the tree and make their house, make their chuppah. Yom Achada, one day, Abakachalfa Barte the Kaiser. One day, Caesar's daughter was passing by. Aspar Shaka the Rispa, and the side of her carriage broke. Katsu Arza, so they cut down the cedar tree. Va'ilula, they built her carriage with it. The Romans confiscated the tree. Also, so the Jews attacked them. Also, Amar Caesar, they said to the Caesar, Mardu b'cha Yudai, the Jews are rebelling against you. Also, so we attacked them back. God carrying Israel, that God cut down in his anger all the horns of Israel. This refers to the 80,000 horns and entered into Beitar when they conquered it. And they killed all the men, women, and children so their blood ran into the great sea. Shema Tomar Krovai. So we'll say maybe Beitar was right next. So they're saying no. Choka Isa Mill was a mile away. Tanya Rebbe Lezer Gadol Omer Shnei Nachom Yesh Bekas Yadayim. There were two streams in that valley called Bekas Yadayim. Echad Moshech Elch, Echad Moshech Elch. Each one went in the opposite direction. Meshiru Chachamim Shnei Chalak and Mayim Echadam, and they were both 1/3 filled with water. The Masnisa Tana Sheva Shanim Batzu of the Chamas Karmei and Midam and Shaishav Zevel. In the Brisa, they said that the idolaters were able to fertilize their fields for 7 years from the blood of the Jews without any fertilization, external fertilization. On top of 57b, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Avin, Amar B'Shimon, Karcha Sachli Zakin Echad, Niyanshe Yerushalayim. One of the elders of Jerusalem told me, "B'bikazu harag Nevuzaradan Rav Tabachem." In this valley, Nevuzaradan was the head general who Nebuchadnezzar sent to destroy the first temple. And he said, on this valley, Nebuzaradan killed Matayim Achas Asrei Ribo. He killed 2.1 Jews. Yerushalayim Harag Tishim Ba'arba Ribo. And in Jerusalem, he killed 940,000. Now, Evan Achas, one stone. Until their blood flowed and baned into the blood of Zechariah. Zechariah ben Yoyada was the Kohen Gadol in the time of the temple. And we're told that he rebuked the Jews because they were worshiping, bowing down to the king Yoash. And so therefore they killed him. They killed his blood. He was a Kohen and a Navi. And they killed him. The bloods touched each other. So Nebuzaradan found the blood of Zechariah. The blood was still boiling all these years later. He tried to get rid of it. So he said, "What's going on with this blood?" He found the blood. It kept bubbling up. He says, "What's going on?" He said to the Jews. They said the Jews acted innocent. They said, "He said, oh, this is the blood of the animals that was spilled here." He was no fool in the Nebuzaradan. I see dummy. He brought the blood. It wasn't the same. He compared the bloods of the animals and it wasn't the same. He said, if you tell me, fine. Otherwise, I'll comb your flesh with iron combs. They said, okay, the gig's up. What are we going to do? And there was a prophet who was rebuking us, he was rebuking us with the words of heaven. We came up and we killed him. And it's been several years and his blood doesn't stop flowing. So Nebuzaradan said, don't worry, I know how to stop the blood. I'll make him happy. I see Sanhedrin Gedol of Sanhedrin Gittin brought the high court and the lower courts. He killed them. The blood didn't stop. He brought the young men and women. He killed them. The blood didn't stop. He brought the Torah, the yeshiva students. He killed them. It didn't stop. Zechariah. The Nebuzaradan said, Zechariah, told him I killed your best. You want me to kill everyone? When he said this, when the blood stopped boiling. At that moment here, tshuva b'daite. Nebuzaradan decided to repent. Amrway, if the Jewish people are punished like this for one soul, what's going to happen to me? I killed everybody. Arak Azal, he got up and he ran away. Shadar Shtar Pertata. He left the contract in his house, but Bete, dividing up his money. Bigair, and he converted. So the Buzaradan converted. Tana Naaman Ger Toshafaya. Naaman was Naaman, who was the king of Ammon, he accepted upon himself not to worship idolatry. It says in 2 Kings, chapter 5, verse 17. Nebuzaradan Ger Tzedekah. Nebuzaradan was also a righteous convert. Mi b'nei banav shel Haman u'lemdu mi b'nei Brak. Haman's grandchildren studied Torah in B'nai Brak. See, by the way, this is most people read this phrase as that. Oh, Haman's grandchildren did tshuva, and you see they're Torah scholars. You could also read it another way. And just because you're in B'nai Brak studying Torah doesn't mean you're a tzaddik. You could also be the descendants of Haman. The grandchildren of Sisera taught Torah in Jerusalem. The grandchildren of Sancheriv taught Torah to the Jewish people. Who are they? Shemai and Naphtalion. Shemai and Naphtalion. Hainu Nosib Nasati Estama Al Tzachah Sela Vilti Akisus. This is what it means in the verse about the blood of Zechariah. I placed their blood on a smooth stone, and it cannot be covered up. Now the Gemara says, well, you're going to talk about the people who were killed in this town of Beitar. Akol kol Yaakov vayadayim yedei Esav. It says that the hands are the hands of Jacob, and the voice is the voice of Jacob, and the hands are the hands of Esav. Akol za'adranios, when it says the first voice, that refers to Hadrian, Kaiser, Sharag, Alexandria, Shamitzrayim, Shishim Ribo al Shishim Ribo, Kaflayim, Kiyotim Mitzrayim. He killed 1.2 million Jews, double the amount that left Egypt. Kol Yaakov, it says the voice of Jacob, Zeaspanius Kaiser, that refers to Caesar, the Vespasian. Sharag the Krach Beitar, he killed in Beitar, Arba Meos Ribo, 4 million Jews. Amrway Arbas Alafim Ribo, some say 40 million. Vayadayim de Esav, Zubalchos, Harasha, this refers to the wicked kingdom that destroyed our temple and kicked us out. Alternatively, Yaakov. What does it mean, the voice of Jacob? There's no prayer that helps. That's not from the seed of Jacob. The hands are Esav. There's no war that's victorious that doesn't have some of Esav's people helping it. And Hanadam Rabbi Lezer, this is what Rabbi Lezer said, B'shut lashon teichabei. What does that mean? B'cherchure lashon. When you have fighting with your tongues, teichabei, and that you have to hide when people are fighting with their tongues. Hide. Don't get involved in that. That's what happened with Bar Kamsa. He was saying bad things about the Jewish people, and they were speaking. It all happened from improper speech. What do you do with the verse? We sat by the rivers of Babylon, from Tehillim 137. Sham Yashavnu. We sat there and we cried. We remembered Zion. David. It teaches us that Hashem shown in advance to David the destruction of the first temple and the second temple. How do we know he saw the destruction of the first temple? It says, we sat by the rivers of Babylon and we cried. By the second temple, it says, God, remember Edom as Yom Yerushalayim, that was predicting that Edom, which is Rome, is going to say destroy the temple. They say, Yom Yerushalayim, they said, Aru, destroy it until its foundation. Rabbi Ami Zakana Maisa, there was a story about Dalameos, there was a story about 400 boys and girls, they were captured and put on a ship to be sold, to be basically sexually assaulted their Gishabats when they knew what was up. Her Gishabats, they knew what they were going to be sold for. But they said, if we drown in the sea, we're going to go straight to the world to come. And so the most distinguished one amongst them expounded, God says, I'll bring you back from Bashan, I'll bring you back from the depths of the sea. Bashan Hashiv, that means from the teeth of the lion. This refers to those who drown in the sea. Once the girls heard this, they all jumped in the sea. When the boys made their argument, they said, this is what the girls do, and that's the typical way. We're atypical, and this is what we're being sold for. They also said, how much more so? They jumped in the sea. About them. The verse says, we're like sheep being slaughtered. Rabbi Yehuda says it refers to the woman and her 7 children. She's not named here. Josephus calls her Chana. Josephus really likes to highlight stories where Jews kill themselves because it justifies his own actions in the Gamwa. But anyway, that's a separate discussion. When he says this refers to the story of the woman and her 7 children. Also, the case where they brought the woman with all her children in front of Caesar. They brought the first one in front of Caesar. He says, worship idolatry. He says, no, how am I going to worship idolatry? He says, I'm Hashem your God. They killed him. They brought number 2, the Caesar. He says, worship idolatry. Again, it says, no other gods. They killed him. They brought the third one. Worship idolatry. It says you can't worship another god. Whoever worships to another god will be destroyed. They killed number 3. They brought number 4. Says don't bow down to another god. They brought number 5. They said worship idolatry. He says no way. He says they said here is the Lord our God. The Lord is one. They took him out and they killed him. They brought the 6th one. They brought the 6th one. He told him to worship idolatry. He said, no way. I'm like, there's no other God. They killed him. Finally, they brought the 7th one. They said, worship idolatry. He says, we promised God we're not going to worship another God. And he promised us he's not going to take us to another nation. He's not going to exchange us, return us to Target. So the Caesar says, but at least give me a little bit. I'm going to let me throw my ring. And you bend down, and take it. At least let us save face. So bend down, pick up my ring, so people can at least say that you accepted my power upon you. So he said, woe upon you, Caesar. Caesar. You worry about your own honor. How much more do we have to worry about God? Zan. Took him out to kill him. Bring him here so I can kiss him a little bit. Said to him, My son, go. Say to Avram, your father. Say to Avram, your father. You did one son on an altar. And I did 7 children on the altar. She went up on the roof and Nafal Mesa. She fell and she died. Rejoice, mother, for this. The mother of these children rejoices. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, Well, we'll go up to this one later on. Stop here for today. If anybody has any question about this powerful daf, I'd love to hear it. Shkoyach.